Don't say that to me. Don't say
Google
there's
it.
a Lena Dunham Polly Pocket movie. Why
Let
the
me,
fuck would that exist?
Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Che.
This is Cory.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, I don't really have a bit to open it anymore. So
I think on episode 301, we don't. I think it's okay for us to kind of come in with a certain amount of energy. If you guys haven't listened to our 300 episode, we had a lot of fun with it, ranking our entirety of our Curse of the Rewatch category, which is the worst of the worst movies ever. You guys should give it a listen. Probably go check out the video because we actually have the tier list in the video itself. But I think if anything,
were displeased with us.
Che and I were just joking about one particular person. But you guys should definitely check out that video. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a lot of fun to do. But
we've got a pretty good episode for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the end of Secret Invasion. And of course, as everyone on the internet is doing, we're going to be talking about Barbenheimer or
Nope.
All right, Barbenheimer it is. If you haven't already, go follow us at Next Time On Pod on all the social media platforms. You can also check us out at nexttimeon.net for all of our archived writing, all of our past and future podcasts, all that good shit. And that's where you can go find episode 300, the tier list for all of our Curse Rewatch, like Cory just said. And coming up soon, maybe next episode, we haven't really discussed it, is going to be our Black Hole book club, which is the delayed book club that we've been pushing for a while, but that's coming out soon. And then we've also got Deep Blue Sea for our next Curse of the Rewatch, the first after the big ranking. So
it genuinely sucks that it's been so many weeks since I've watched Deep Blue Sea that I have to watch it again.
Yeah, nobody told you to watch it. Nobody told you to watch it.
I just was like, oh, might as well get this out of the way. Like, I just watched Jaws. I guess we have sharks on the brain. And then I worked.
What an awful back-to-back. One of the greatest movies ever made into Deep Blue Sea.
It's genuinely tragic how in the future we've made a worse shark movie where we made the sharks one smarter and we added more and the movie is so much worse.
Well, isn't that that's basically what's happened with like the Meg, right? Like the Meg is just
but the first
humongous sharks and more of them and
was the first Meg fun? It was like fun, I think.
I have seen it. Jason Statham's in it, Rainn Wilson. I don't remember anything about it. And then Meg 2 is coming this year, and it's like just gonna be in China now.
I think it's just like Meg 2, it's back again or something like that's the tagline. It's called
Meg 2, The Trench. And
if Deep Blue Sea had Jason Statham in it, it would be an infinitely better movie. The fact that it has to rely on Thomas Jane and LL Cool J is a goddamn crime.
Yeah, I'm really not looking forward to that movie, but it's Cory's
LL Cool J, pretty bad actor.
No, really? I for one am shocked that LL Cool J is a bad actor.
One of those guys as a child, I just didn't perceive it, but as an adult now, I'm like, oh wow, he's like very bad.
He's on
not his fault. He had to act opposite a bird. I'm not saying that's his fault, but I'm just saying every time he showed up again, I'm like, ugh.
He's on that NCIS show now, right?
I never wanted a black guy in a film to die more than LL Cool J.
And the only thing I remember about that movie is that he survives it. So
he does survive it. It's like very much wrong kid died energy when Samuel L. Jackson doesn't make it through it, but LL Cool J does. I don't care.
One of the more legendary deaths of the movie. We're really spoiling our Curse of the Rewatch.
Everyone knows this about it.
Debate. Shall we jump into the episode, Cory?
Let's do it, please.
All right. First things first is, of course, the elevator pitch. Cory, you want to go first?
Sure thing.
All right, I'm going to put a minute on the clock and go.
I was hanging out with my girlfriend and her friend Ian in a restaurant recently in Queens. They pointed to a guy and said, oh, that's John Wilson. I'm like, I don't know who the fuck that is. And they were like, oh, this guy. And I'm like, okay, let's watch. Like, they were like, his show just came out today. I'm like, I don't care. But it's like an HBO show. And I'm like, fine, I'll watch it, whatever. And what I experienced was probably a very surreal and strange environment of television. Obviously it's very akin to Nathan Fielder because he is an executive producer on the show. But the concept of the show is a man basically films his everyday life in New York City and strings together a story with a focus / tutorial about these different things you wouldn't think to talk about. The main points, the ones episodes I watched was about scaffolding and how to improve your memory. But what it does is take these concepts and runs into people throughout the streets of New York, and the episodes just continue on into insanity. Just give, I want to say, How to Scaffolding a watch. It's hard to describe the show itself, but it's just a very, very funny, fun documentary type series. It was like, I've only seen like probably 5 or 6 episodes, and the only reason I stopped because it became like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I realized that everyone else had went to sleep. So I really recommend the show. Very, very funny.
I remember his appearance on the Desus and Mero show. It was when I first found out about him.
I think the first season does end with like leading into the pandemic, which it was like kind of a very like before and after view. I mean, I kind of also do have like a lot of like love for at least the filmmaking behind it, because it's very close to my neighborhood, and it's like just kind of New York daily life is like living in a bit of like a kind of David Lynch era where you kind of just see something and you're not allowed to react to it because it's just kind of there.
Yeah, it is a very, that's one thing I was like watching. I was like, I don't really get a lot of this shit because I don't live in New York.
It's
or Brooklyn for more specifically.
Yeah, no, it's a special type of hellscape that I exist in, and I just kind of don't perceive how strange it is until I watch that show, and I'm like, yeah, there's like a lot of things I just kind of walk by without actually even perceiving it. But I mean, if you're not from New York, I definitely recommend giving it a watch. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Che, what you got?
All right, I'm pitching another TV show that really couldn't be more opposite to the one that Corey pitched, and that is the best interest from a couple months ago now, I think June in the UK. The Sharon Horgan and Michael Sheen miniseries. This is a tentative pitch because on one hand, the show is incredible. Obviously, Sharon Horgan and Michael Sheen just like incredible actors, but holy shit, is this show bleak and depressing. It is the concept is there's 2 parents and their 2 daughters, one of which has a basically like debilitating disease where she is going to die before she even like hits her teens, really. And we follow her and we basically beat them at the end of her life, where they have to make this decision on whether or not she should or shouldn't live. And the story is about their fight with the hospital, who's saying that she should be allowed to die because she's in a vegetative state, and this mother who's fighting against the hospital. And it is just like a collection of some of the greatest performances I've seen on TV in a long time, and really carefully written, well executed storytelling. And but like I said, if you're not the kind of person who can like deal with death, don't do this to yourself. It is fucking bleak, and it doesn't end happily. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for you.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
The show's fucking great, Corey. It's really really good.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Jesus Christ.
It's gotta be sad. Just gotta be sad, Corey. You know me. It's gotta be real bleak and depressing.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Honestly,
this is the pitch, and you just pitch depression.
Well, you know me.
This is what you just literally just pitched like, hey, this is depression. Do you want some?
I go into.
I felt depressed listening to that.
Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't recommend this for the vast majority of people. And my one complaint about the show is that I think so. It's a 4-episode miniseries that they aired over 2 weeks, 2 1 hour, like 1 episodes 1 week, and then 2 1 episodes the next week. This is my, like, I love TV. I think we're in the golden age of TV. I've said it before. TV's quite literally never been better than it's ever been right now.
For now.
Until, we'll give it a couple months when the studios
we're catching up to it.
Yeah. But at this exact moment, probably like a couple months ago is when we had the best TV ever in the history of mankind, I think. I think this show should have just been a movie. It's 4 hours. There's easily a couple hours of fat that you could have trimmed out of this. But that's a conversation for a different day. This stuff doesn't really get made into movies anymore. I understand why it's a TV show. And because it's a TV show, you do get to do, like, the show gets to explore a lot of different storylines. It explores, obviously, Sharon Horgan's storyline. She's really the main character. And her, and of course, Michael Sheen, who's like the dichotomy of this and their relationship as it sort of obviously strains and comes back together and strains over the course of this. And then, of course, the eldest daughter, who is having her own issues with this experience. Like I said, the show is amazing. If you can make it through it, do it. Highly recommend.
So guys, if you want to be horribly depressed, watch. Che, what is it called again?
It's called Best Interests. I actually don't know if I said it was called Best Interests.
I don't think you did. You can watch Best Interest, and if you want to be put into a strange mood, watch How To with John Wilson. You know what? Television's interesting because we can cover so many different bases.
Yeah, I think it is currently our best explored medium, and I think that is mostly because they just don't make movies like they used to anymore, which is unfortunate.
For now.
We had a bit of a discussion about this, and it didn't play much into our first return episode because that's all old shit. But we did talk about, like, do we... I didn't really understand the guidance behind, like, the SAG-AFTRA's content creator thing, but let's be very clear. No studio has ever paid us any money. So
No, we
are not scamming here.
Anything, studios have actively tried to take down our content, and they have taken down some of our content on YouTube.
They took down one of our best videos of all time that none of you will ever see, unfortunately.
These fuckers. I don't know. Listen, as somebody who works in the industry in a very different sense in production, it's a very weird area that we're currently finding ourselves in. I think, at least myself, I'm going to try to, I think Barbie and Oppenheimer are probably my last two out of my way to go see these big, blockbuster movies. A lot of good indie films coming out now, and I think I'm probably going to be focusing on those going forward. I don't know. I think morally it is, it just fucking sucks that these companies can't be not greedy.
I was much more worried about the extent to how this was going to go, like how long it was going to be when it was just the writers, because the truth is that, I don't think studio execs value writers at all, which is why they're the ones that always go on strike. But no matter how little studio executives value actors, you can't make anything without them.
True.
They seem to believe, as evidenced by every time I turn on Max, that we will all be switching over to watching reality TV. But I'll tell David Zaslav this again. I will never watch any of these fucking house shows you put on my homepage. I don't care about a single one of them. Don't give me two bland white people remaking their house or whatever the fuck is going on in any of these shows. I'm not watching them.
And honestly, as somebody, I'm also very hard to please with reality and nonfiction shows. And I think How To with John Wilson just straight up struck a specific bone in my body that made me laugh at it. I think that stuff
is different though, honestly.
It is different, but also I think I'm not sure with the because the show is still written though. So I'm I don't know if John Wilson, and I don't know his writer's name, but I know he has a writer on every episode. I don't know if those guys are in the WGA. So really, who knows how? The dude, when his show was premiered, he was just hanging out in a restaurant. I really don't think I kind of just seemed to fit his vibe, but I don't know. It's all fucky, and I fucking hate Zaslav, and I hate all these fucking rich cunts. Bleep out that, Che. I'm sorry. Can you make
we can say cunts, right?
Okay. I don't know.
I think cunts is fine.
All right. Well, it's them. Fuck those guys. Yeah, I don't know. Let's just move into the episode.
All right. It's time to talk about some alien cunts. And that
okay, stop. Taking away my ability.
Marvel's Secret Invasion.
Can you just put a big old bleep sound so no one knows what I said?
It's because I watch too much British TV. I'm just being.
That's the problem. Me and you learned it from British television. That's the fucking problem.
I've been rewatching the thick of it, and they be saying cunt in the thick of it. I'll tell you that right now.
I was wondering. I thought you were gonna recommend Hijack because I almost watched that last.
Hijack is lit, actually, okay. Ladies and gentlemen. Secondary recommendation. If you can't handle Best Interest, watch Hijack. That show is wild.
How about we talk about Hijack our next regular episode?
Fuck it, I'm down. You don't have to.
All right, let's do that. There we go.
Okay, so Secret Invasion, the newest Marvel television show, starring, of course, Samuel Jackson, Olivia Colman, briefly starring Ben Mendelsohn for some reason.
Yeah, okay.
And of course, Kingsley Ben Adir. This show,
and Emilia Clarke, who's actually very much in the show.
Yeah,
she's kind of a main character.
She's the main character of the Marvel universe now.
Apparently,
about a heist at a black market storage facility in Kazakhstan happened a couple days ago.
Doesn't ring a bell.
I may not know when a Skrull is pretending to be a human, but I sure as hell know when a human is lying. You know damn well what was in that storage vault.
The fact that you don't know tells me all I need to know about this new, rather old Nick Fury. I think Thanos' snap changed you. Taught you that no matter how hard you fight for what's right, there's always someone stronger to undermine you.
You seem to forget this old Nick Fury has 30 years of hands-on experience with the Skrulls. I know the nature of this threat way better than you ever will.
Is that your idea of an offer of some sort of collaboration between us?
We used to work pretty well together back in the day.
Back in the day, you would have seen my rather mediocre bagmen coming a mile away. The fact that you didn't see them coming means you haven't a hope in hell of seeing Gerwig and his rebels coming, which makes you, as a partner, rather pointless.
Okay, guys, spoilers.
If you heard us say we're talking about Secret Invasion,
we still fall under the Marvel umbrella. I understand that people want to kind of keep on top of these things. We technically do a podcast keeping on top of these things.
I just mean if you heard us say Secret Invasion, then you're still here now. That's wild
fair.
To me.
I just like to, I like to be nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have a pretty spoiler-filled episode, spoiler-filled conversation about this. I assume one and only season of Secret Invasion. I think the only one that was really ever planned to be more than a miniseries was Loki, and that is coming back soon-ish, October.
Excited for that.
Corey, what are your overarching thoughts on this season?
Did we talk about it at all? I think we talked about it a little bit.
We talked about the first episode.
And I will say, I'm gonna start with my positives. I like the way it was shot. I thought it was a lot of very fun, cool shots. It definitely felt very European with the way they were doing it, very British television with the way they were shooting it. Right. I thought the dialogue was pretty good for the most part. I really enjoyed Samuel L. Jackson in the show. It seemed like, I enjoyed every time he was just talking about nothing, honestly. Olivia Colman, fantastic in every one of her scenes. I would be like, I just want a movie or TV show just about her character. She needs to play more sadistic, morally gray MI6 lady thing. I don't exactly, British Nick Fury, basically. And I think it's funny. I was watching the last bit at work today, and a guy was like, I thought the show was boring as shit. And I was like, I was entertained. I never thought of it as being boring. I never was bored by it. But when I ended the 6th episode, because we both kind of came in pretty fresh off the 6th episode going into this recording, it feel like it opened up a lot of doors that I didn't understand why they opened them. And I felt like there was a way to close out this series in a satisfying type of way, but instead they went in a very harsh direction that I don't necessarily agree with. And there are things I liked. I liked Nick Fury's wife and that revelation. I enjoyed that part of the show. But other things like, for example, killing off Ben Mendelsohn's character just made me scratch my head because I thought that would come back around and be important to the plot. And they kind of did hint at the whole, the president's going to have a change of heart situation, but his death ended up being completely pointless to the story, which that does piss me off actually a lot.
Not even completely pointless. Basically, the president becomes a different character for the last 2 minutes of the show, and I like
it. Yeah, the president is just becomes hardcore insane Republican out of nowhere. It's just very it was maybe he was Republican the entire time, but it's I just the weird shift of the president being now it's we got to kill them all. And I'm you didn't kind of perceive how all of this plot that just happened around you and you saw this was a good idea.
It's an incredibly hard take from a man who found out about these things seconds earlier.
Exactly.
He's just, I'm honestly, I agree more with your friend that I thought this show was shockingly dull. And I think it's the 8th time I've gone into a Marvel show out of the 9 that I thought something big was going to happen. And then all the episodes happened, and then I went, well, nothing happened. So why did I watch this?
Here's my thing, though. I kind of figured that nothing would happen.
I guess I just thought they were bringing back Samuel Jackson.
I stopped thinking this because, I stopped thinking that something big's gonna happen. I guess
maybe I'm just naive.
I don't know. I think maybe because of this one, I was just I just don't think anything's really gonna come out of it. The biggest one that we got any type of into movie thing was WandaVision. But besides that, the rest of them are kind of just open things that maybe are gonna come back again. You don't need to watch Captain America: The Winter Soldier You know what the fuck I meant. You don't need to watch that. You pretty much gonna be like, oh, Falcon becomes Captain America. That's fine. Moon Knight, we might get Oscar Isaac back. Loki is doing Loki shit. That's fun. He's doing Loki shit. But like everybody else, I'm like, hey, it just is what it is. It kind of, to me, it's like more like this. Everyone has a little mini series, and I'm treating the movies more now as like these are the event books. And like to me, like the TV shows are treated more of like a mini run, or like this is like someone's solo comic run where like it might have some implications in the future, but like in most part, it feels all self-contained.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That is how it's turned out.
I think also halfway through the show, I'm like, oh, this isn't going to have a major impact. But I think the only major thing we probably can come back to and see is the kind of thing they didn't answer, choose not to answer in the show is how long has Rhodey been off the table? That's like that to me. Like that's honestly the biggest,
that seemed like a thing they really tipped their hand at the end where.
That's another writer's problem. Basically.
He's the only one who can't walk, and I honestly at no point. Well,
here's the thing though, Che. Like he can't walk because he fucked his legs up.
No, no. But nobody else was like. It seemed very stressed that had been there for a very long time. But I also at no point during Don Cheadle's honestly incredibly weird performance in this show. I gave a shit about how long Rhodey was off the table.
I thought I really liked him when we didn't know he was a Skrull. And as soon as they revealed that he was a Skrull,
was there a point at which we didn't know he was a Skrull? Because I think second he came on screen, I was like, that guy's clearly a Skrull. Why is he acting
I knew that. I'm just saying though, like I liked him.
Before it was confirmed, you mean?
Before it was confirmed, I kind of thought he was like, oh, like he's like, I kind of think he's a Skrull, but I really do like what he's doing in these scenes between him and Sam. I'm like, these guys are pretty fun playing off of each other. And then he becomes a mustache twirling villain. To the point in the last episode, he tells a woman to shut the fuck up, basically. And the president's like, yo, we should kill the Russians. The president's like, I don't know what I should do. First off, horrible elected position. And second off...
Also, like, the whole hospital scene makes no sense. Why would anybody believe that this man who took a president out of a secure room to, like, run him around the hallways into an elevator and upstairs is not a Skrull?
It's like, and like, the funny thing is, he's actually doing that out of confidence in his position. Like, he's just really bad at his job.
Yeah. I mean, they do again, they point that out when he doesn't, like, I mean, again, I don't think you need to be a CIA agent to know to check behind doors in a room you're trying to secure. But there's that line where Olivia Colman comes out from the room he just said was secure, and it's like, didn't check behind the door, which is, again, wild. Like, I don't know. I love Don Cheadle. I think... I found his performance. I guess I will say his performance was good. I don't understand what his character was doing. I suppose.
Yeah, I don't like. I think like that's what I'm saying. I think as soon as they revealed that he's a Skrull, they're like, oh, he's super evil. I'm like, we didn't need to have him be super evil. Like, I like this whole like always being a dickhead, but at the same time, it's like I don't dislike it.
It's another thing where they just did another pretty low stakes move where here is Rhodey, who is like kind of a big character, but not really. So we can make him a Skrull in our TV show that we don't give a shit about. We don't care about the show at all, which became very clear by the end of this episode, where the big fight is between two characters. What are the names of the two characters, Corey, that had the climactic fight?
Gaia and Graba.
Wasn't fair. You're a fucking nerd. But most people are gonna be like, "Huh, Amelia Clark fighting the guy from Barbie. Interesting." It's like,
oh, you put it like that. I was gonna say Daenerys versus Michael X, but I mean, you know what?
The show has so. I understand what you're saying about the TV shows being.
No.
But I don't understand why.
No. I think all of your criticisms are very fair. I'm saying this is my personal stakes. On paper, yeah, you're right. I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just saying from a personal perspective on this thing.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying from a critical perspective. But let's, I guess, okay, I said the biggest thing that came out of it. But in the other point, we kind of tipped our hat at this. So Amelia Clark has the powers of every single superhero in the world that's ever existed.
They're going to have to retcon that. I mean...
What
that character can't exist. The character can't exist, and then have you. We already talked about this before. How they already made Captain Marvel too strong, so they had to like basically just write her out of all the movies.
Yeah, she's like, what is she doing? Oh, she's in space. I mean, we don't even have her movie yet, but we know she's gonna be handicapped through like the whole like quantum switching thing that they're. I'm looking forward to this. I'm actually looking forward to Captain Marvel. It looks pretty fun, but I'm just like, we had to handicap her because of how fucking OP she is. But now Amelia Clark has every power And like, you know,
even if it was just Captain Marvel and the Hulk, you'd be like, well, this character can't exist, and it's not just that.
And like, the thing about it is though, like the reason in the comics Super Skrull was already pretty overly strong because he had the power of all the 4 Fantastic Four,
Right.
but that's just 4 fucking people. This is like 30. And the thing about it, at the end of the day, is you could just like, here's how you could have written out, oh, the power started waning because it wasn't perfected. Or the power started waning because it was split between 2 different Skrulls. You could include that shit. You can't just like let her walk around.
Also, like, world-destroying, overpowered villains work really well in your superhero universe because then you get to have your superheroes team up for a thing that feels like it has real stakes. You basically gave this character the exact same powers of Super Skrull. We watched them get their powers at the exact same time, which also, why'd he do that? Why not just kick this thing that he thinks is Nick Fury out of his orb of power creation?
I will say, I guess the whole idea is that like it wouldn't affect humans, and I guess so.
But why even risk it? You're sure this experiment that's never been run before is not going to give Nick Fury superpowers?
I'm just trying to. Listen, don't make me.
I understand.
I don't work for Disney.
But I just like we basically gave this person the powers of Super Skrull. He was Super Skrull. She is Super Skrull powers. And then we killed Super Skrull. I feel like I'm going a bit crazy with this MCU stuff because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago where we were saying like, can Marvel miss? Like these guys can seem to do anything. And now I don't know if they could do anything right.
Well, who fucking knows what they're going to do anytime soon?
Well, the Marvels is the last, officially planned thing for a while.
I
guess
don't know.
Loki and the Marvels is
Loki and Marvels I think is wrapped, but I don't think the Captain America movie is like wrapped at all, or I think that was the only one currently in production. I don't think that was wrapped at all.
I also this is absolutely not fair.
But I let you go with that one. Are you talking about the message you sent me? I let you live.
I'm not talking about that because again, I'm not gonna
Che was body shaming.
You haven't seen Twisted Metal. I wasn't body shaming. I was just confused because this man, Anthony Mackie's supposed to be Captain America. And he doesn't look like Captain America. But that isn't what I was going to say. Corey's just putting me on blast in front of people. I just watched way more of Twisted Metal than I should have. And
time out. Just real quick review of Twisted Metal. I'm just genuinely confused. This
horrible.
Twisted Metal is something I would watch, and I'm surprised that you watched. Yeah,
well, you know what it was?
Of course it was.
It's because I like Anthony Mackie, and basically, I just wanted a show that I could throw on in the background that I didn't need to spend too much attention on. I knew the show was not going to be good, but I didn't think it was going to be so bad. Cheap looking. It's not even like that it was bad. It was that it looks like a fucking like a USA show from the 2010s. It's crazy how
don't throw shade at Burn Notice, man.
Listen, we've talked on the show how we both love Burn Notice, but Burn Notice did not look like Game of Thrones. Nobody would have accused it of being the highest production quality on television.
But White Collar was.
White Collar just had pretty people. I don't think that really counts.
True. But did you see the cop from White Collar, the other guy, not Neil Caffrey, was in Oppenheimer.
Who the fuck was he in Oppenheimer?
He was one of the congressmen. I just saw him and I'm like, Oppenheimer. Oh.
So he had a non-speaking role.
He talked. He spoke like 3 lines, but I noticed, man.
That's so funny.
Listen, I keep an eye out for Neil Caffrey and that other guy and everything I watch.
Tim DeKay is his name.
There it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I am a little worried about the Captain America movie. Not because of the text I sent you, but just because I just don't know what Marvel's doing anymore.
I don't know either.
Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the most fun I've had in a Marvel movie in a while.
But that's mostly James Gunn,
right? And again, it's just a thing that didn't feel consequential. It was self-contained. It doesn't really.
That's kind of all the Guardians, though.
But it also just like pulled a bunch of interesting characters off the board. Like there's just people that are gone now from the MCU, whether or not they were ever going to get used again or not. Who knows? Even No Way Home is just like, are we going to see Tom Holland as Spider-Man anytime soon? I have no idea.
Yeah, actually, we are.
We
should. It's gonna come up pretty soon. I think they're supposed to start production like early next year, but like.
Oh, but I mean, is that gonna happen now?
Who fucking knows?
I think
I mean, now that John Watts is off of it, I'm wondering who's going to even step up. I actually don't even know if they announced a director for it yet.
I feel like we have this exact same discussion every time we do a Marvel show now, is I keep waiting for them to catch the spark again, but maybe it was just luck. Like, maybe this was just Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans holding together a bunch of, like, pretty mediocre stuff.
Nah, we like. I think we're looking back at it too much like that. I think there's a lot more than just those two. Listen, those 10 years weren't a mistake. It's just I don't know what the fuck they're doing now. I'm staying with that boat.
I hope you're right, because if they weren't a mistake, they can find it again. But it has been a pretty long run of, aside from No Way Home and Guardians of the Galaxy, which again just feel separate from the MCU. Not No Way Home. Far From Home.
I mean, Guardians and Spider-Man, aside the first Spider-Man, have always felt a bit like disconnected in my brain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These two things that really don't feel like they're part of the MCU. Now,
I like Shang-Chi.
I'm very excited for Loki. Shang-Chi was fine. Again, it's another one that I was just like, yeah, okay. I like Simu Liu, and
I mean, I think that's the thing about this entire realm of Marvel, this like last era, is a lot of people have been like, none of this matters, and my brain is like, I agree, it's not contributing to the larger Marvel story, but has any of these contributed to it? In my brain, I don't think they've done a great job of doing this, don't get me wrong, but I believe they were going to these projects being like, we're not right now contributing to a major product. And the only one that seemed to do it, and it wasn't a good movie, was Ant-Man Quantumanium. But right now, coming up with that, we don't even know what the fuck's going to happen with any of that shit. Right. We might not even have Jonathan Majors in a couple months. Who fucking knows? But I don't know. I guess we'll see. But you're right. A lot of it was luck. So maybe the luck's run out. A lot of things swung in the other direction. I mean, I'm still disappointed in Taika, whatever the fuck he did with Love and Thunder. That was fucking insane.
I still hold out hope, mostly because it's the only bad thing he's ever made.
That's what I'm saying.
That was like a studio meddling thing. Like,
to me, that looked like I was watching a director have too much freedom, honestly.
I guess, but I mean, he wrote, directed, and produced Jojo Rabbit, the movie right before that, and I love Jojo Rabbit. So
I'm not disagreeing with you, man, but I'm saying, like, look at Ragnarok and how much like that was probably contained.
We're gonna see like this later this year. If Next Goal Wins is dog shit, then I will have to reassess my opinions on like.
Let's just say, man, he was pretty shit and Free Guy, and listen, that movie. Shall we move on to?
I just love your hate for Free Guy. It's so funny to me. I don't really have anything else to say about Secret Invasion. We should put a clock on how long before they have to retcon this Amelia Clark character. Do
you think she's even? I think the next time she could even be mentioned would be in Captain Marvel, and I don't think they'll even touch on this. I think they might touch on the fact that Skrulls are being slaughtered. That's a pretty fucking dark thing that was happening.
Yeah, I guess Skrulls will have to be mentioned in the Marvels, won't they?
They're getting slaughtered, so I hope so.
Yeah, that was a weird ending to the show. Just odd. That like, also, how did any of these fucking vigilantes know who the Skrulls were?
Internet.
What do you mean, internet?
Let's go to break.
Dr. Banner. Now might be a really good time for you to get angry.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, it's time to talk about the first of the Barbenheimer collective. The biggest movie in America may make a run for the biggest movie of the year, although it looked like it was just going to dominate the box office. And it did, but I don't think it. I don't know how this movie did so well, but I don't think it's going to catch Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Currently is sitting at $574 million at the box office.
Fucking hell.
Barbie is in third place, just behind Across the Universe, sitting at $366 million. So it's possible.
That upsets me so much.
Yeah, I just it was weird because Barbie was just sold out for 2 weeks, and I didn't. I meant
more the Mario thing.
I didn't realize until I looked at the numbers that Mario was doing as well as it was, and that's also probably because I just wasn't ever trying to go see that movie in theaters. I never even pretended to try to buy a ticket, and every time I would look to go buy a Barbie ticket, it was all sold out for weeks on end.
I still see people in pink every day after work.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken.
I got us both ice cream.
Cool.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Oh, hi, Alan.
There are no multiples of Alan. He's just Alan.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
The discourse around like people really taking like victory laps on the success of this movie I find really weird because it's like one of the most hardcore marketed movies I've ever seen. I don't think it's a shock this movie's doing really well. One, because we saw the same thing with like Crazy Rich Asians, which I think this is a movie that is a really good parallel to, and that is that a community that is really starved for films. In that case, it was Asian Americans. In this case, it's women at large. When they get a chance to go see a movie that's been marketed at them, because there are movies for women that don't, obviously much more smaller movies.
But this does feel like the first, like, in a way, it's funny, I was talking to people beforehand. I'm like, this is going to be the first, obviously, I actually was proven wrong on this, but like, this is the first time I'm going to see like an IP blockbuster without a big fight at the end. I was proven wrong, obviously.
I still think you were proven right, but okay.
But I mean, it was like, it felt very.
I'm not counting dance fights.
But it felt different for like a blockbuster, though.
It's the first blockbuster I can think of in a very long time that in this, because I think blockbusters really drastically changed in the superhero era. And I think this is the first blockbuster post the superhero era that's for women. For women.
True.
Directed by a woman. Really starring women. Obviously, Ryan Gosling is the second lead, but
better get that Oscar.
Nobody would argue that this is Ken's movie at all.
Actually,
and that's why I don't I don't think it's a surprise that Barbie did well. I think it's a really good thing in a sense that this movie did well. I don't know if I love the idea of Mattel shitting out IP movies for the next 5 years.
I think the biggest issue with this film is that Mattel was like, yes.
Yeah, I know that's the thing.
we need to make a Hot Wheels movie.
I think, as
like,
always,
no.
Hollywood executives are going to learn the wrong lesson from this movie, which is like,
absolutely.
Oh, people really like Mattel stuff? Let's make a Uno movie.
And it's like, no, people didn't like it. Like, the people liked Barbie because it was so self-aware. It was like, the messages it wanted to tell and want to put across were well told. Mm-hmm. The actors did a really good job, and the filmmaker was able to make a really fun film out of it.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get that out of J.J. Abrams' Hot Wheels movie. It's not going to be the same thing. You're not going to get out of Lena Dunham's Polly Pocket movie? I don't know, but like,
those
still.
are words you put together on your own accord, right? That's not a real thing that's happening?
Google.
Don't say that to me. Don't
Google
say there's
it.
a Lena Dunham Polly Pocket movie. Why the fuck would that exist?
I'm just gonna double check and Google that.
Oh my god! No, I mean, I think I've said this exact same point before, and it is not a genius idea or a salient point by any stretch of the imagination. But making good movies and good TV is really easy, in that all you have to do is get really talented people and pay them money and give them money. And that's obviously easier said than done. But Greta Gerwig is just one of our greatest living filmmakers. Get that shit out of my face, Corey.
Do you see
Get
what it
out
says?
of my face.
Emily in Paris to become Polly.
Oh, it's like some of my least favorite words all
by
together.
Lena Dunham.
That's my point. That's my point.
Jesus Christ.
And that is sort of the reaction I had leading up to this movie, where I was like, I love Greta Gerwig. If you haven't seen her other movies and you just got
Daniel Kaluuya's Barbie movie, Barney movie. That will
I did see that.
That will have a Being John Malkovich vibes. What the fuck is that sentence?
I saw that and I didn't understand what it meant at all, and I just ignored it. Like I didn't want to contend with those syllables next to each other. But if this is your first time, like if you were in the Barbie hive and you went to the theater with your friends wearing pink and you haven't seen Greta Gerwig's movies before, for one, cool, love it. Go see more movies.
Go see more Greta movies. Go watch Greta movies.
Yeah, go watch Little Women and Lady Bird, because those movies, and Frances Ha, which she didn't direct, but obviously
I think about the car scene in Lady Bird about once a week. I think
it's one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest scenes of our
one of
era.
the best scenes of all time. Yeah. And I think Barbie itself had a lot of really, really solid scenes. And I wasn't joking earlier. I think Ryan Gosling, probably, in my opinion, probably his best performance of his career. And I'm not trying to say that.
Corey,
I'm saying it.
calm down.
No, what's the other? What's the best one? Tell me.
Okay, first of all,
Tell me.
you're gonna say
Tell
this
me.
to a man who has a Blade Runner 2049 poster on
Tell
his
me.
wall.
No, I think it's better than Blade Runner. I love Blade Runner. I've seen Blade Runner 6 fucking times.
And a La La Land poster on the
I've
same
seen
wall.
La La Land 4 fucking times. And
And if you're just talking about like really goofy fun, I'm taking the Nice Guys every day over.
Oh,
the
I'm taking this
Marvel
way. This is you're crazy right now.
lost
You
your
are
mind, sir.
insane.
You lost
I
your
love
mind.
all
And I
of
respect
them. I
it.
am
I
not.
respect
I
it.
think you're fucking insane.
I also think most women would agree that it's The Notebook with me. I even got the women on my side, so
I don't know about that, man. Most women I talk to, like they're like, I think this is the best Ryan got.
You're talking to two women, and they're both in your head, and I think that's the problem.
All right, first up, there's 3 women, and they're all in my head.
I did really like Ryan Gosling in this movie. I think it's really funny, intentional or not, although I think everything in this movie is very intentional. I think it's really funny how little any of the other men had anything to do in this movie.
I think it's very intentional. But I think, you know what my favorite thing about this movie is, though? It's like actually, and all those shitty people who definitely have something to say about the film. For the wrong, they're not important. But the thing about it is, like, it's funny to me, the people who have these things to say. It's like interesting that the Barbie movie is top. Like, they actually do tackle a lot of subjects that's not just pure like femininity. It's like a lot of like
the point of this movie is that patriarchy is bad for everyone. But of course, people aren't smart enough to get that.
Absolutely not.
They didn't put 1 and 1 together. And
there is like there's literally a message to be taken away from anybody who watches this film, and that's a really fucking good film, and especially a film that's mostly about women. It's like a very, very well done film, but in that capacity.
The film is also very clear about who it's going to upset, which is why I really loved the Emerald Fennell cameo. It's one of my favorite cameos of all time. Emerald Fennell plays Midge, the pregnant Barbie in this movie. Do you know who Emerald Fennell is?
Shit, don't put me on stuff like that. I've seen her
writer.
before.
Well, I think writer director. I think most people will not have recognized her by look, but if you go check the cast list and check her IMDb, she's the writer director of Promising Young Woman, the 2020 movie that had a very similar discourse to Barbie, and all the men online in 2020 were like, well, this movie hates men. Why do women hate men so much? I was like, well, first of all, if you read a newspaper before.
People hate men because the way we are.
Yeah. I hate men, and I'm not even a woman, so I don't know what you mean. Why do people hate men? Get on.
Hey, also read Ducks. That's another really fucking good.
It's like, but I there are a lot of things that I think are really, really working with this movie, as I knew would be the case, because like I said, Greta Gerwig is probably one of our greatest living directors. I hope now that she really gets her credit from, I think, the more general movie-going audience, because I think she's been an indie darling for a while. Yeah. Lady Bird is one of the most celebrated movies of this decade, or of last decade at this point. And of course, we've gone this long without saying Margot Robbie's name, but she's incredible as always.
I mean, yeah, no, like it's funny to me like how she's such a good actress that like scenes will just stick with me. Like I think also like the way that she plays this role is just so sincere that you don't even question that this woman has like an ounce of like malice in her body. Yeah. It's like watching somebody play Santa Claus, where it's just pure goodness the entire time, and the way like she acts and like the scenes that she delivers her comedy in. And the scene that stuck with me since I saw the film like 2 weeks ago was the scene where she's on the bench and just sees the older woman and she tells her she's beautiful. Mm-hmm. I don't know why that stuck with me as hard as it did, but like the way that she delivers that line is just so fucking well done. And just to see her career post the small part in Wolf of Wall Street to now has just been fantastic. Like, she kills it in every single fucking thing she does.
And I like that she is not afraid to go back and do parts like, I mean, obviously, Wolf of Wall Street is when she really got propelled into our consciousness. I do think ironically, I guess ironically is the right word, it is because the internet got obsessed with her being naked in that movie. And I do think a lot of that baggage is being carried over into this movie. And it has a lot of comments on, obviously, you know, this movie is a lot about the way that men and society, the patriarchy, view women physically. I also just love that she's like mirrored that part over and over again. The small cameo she has in Asteroid City is, like we talked about, I think one of my favorite parts of that movie.
That was another great scene that she just has a presence in. Yeah, and it's like, I mean, like that, like she just does so fucking much with, like, you don't need to go as hard as she does in these small little parts that she does, but she's so fucking good. I mean, even the scene where she like kind of gives up and is just rolling around on the ground, it's just like pure funny, but it just feels like it's so fucking, you know, it's just good. like the other cast members too. And I thought like, and like I think a scene that is so easy to fuck up was the American Ferrera scene where she gives the speech scene where it's very much talking to the audience, but the way that Greta's actually able to use that scene and actually translate it into being a part of the actual film itself, like, and actually is like a plot point, the use of that scene, which I think is like just a very good, smart meta way to do writing in general. But I also think the way that, like, in a way, like, listen, I'm not a woman, but I fucking teared up during that scene, just the way that she delivered it. But I mean, the way the end of the film was very funny.
Another person that I've been really rooting for a while, America Ferrera. I love Superstore. I think she's been, as always, like a pretty underappreciated actor. A lot of people really been celebrating this movie that I think.
It took me a second to recognize it was her, honestly. Like, it took me like one quick second. I'm like, oh, wait, that is her. Why is she just a receptionist? And I'm like, oh, that makes sense. She's okay, now it's starting to click together.
Yeah, I hope this movie's massive success translates into more for everybody involved than just us getting a bunch of shit Mattel movies, because I know Daniel Kaluuya making like a Being John Malkovich Barney movie is fascinating. It sounds insane to me. I don't understand any of those words next to each other, but I don't think Mattel has anything else to offer us, really.
That's true. I agree with that. But also, it's funny though. I remember when the Barbie movie was getting cast, and I think even in this podcast, you're like, what the fuck is this movie gonna be? Why is Ryan Gosling and Simu Lee and like, it's like, why are all these, like, why is a Greta Gerwig Barbie movie a fucking thing? And it kind of just kept on being stacked on top of each other. And I'm really happy that we got this and not the who was the other comedian attached to us beforehand? I can't even remember.
I honestly didn't check any. Was Anne Hathaway at one point supposed to be?
No, it's not Anne Hathaway. It's another comedian who I don't actually think is very funny. Fuck.
But I did worry that when this was happening,
I think her name's very attached to it, so you guys can check that out.
I did worry when this was happening that we were going to. I had flashbacks of Chloe Zhao's Eternals. Who I think Chloe Zhao is another like really great auteur of our time. I love all of her movies except for the Eternals. And then when I watch the Eternals, I was like, other than the fact this movie has like a bunch of really beautiful shots of the like scenery and the quiet landscape of America, this is not a Chloe Zhao movie, and they just attached her name and then pulled all of her aesthetic out of this film. And I really worried that we were going to get was just Greta Gerwig's name attached to a movie that was picked to pieces by a boardroom at Mattel. And that's not what we got. This is very much a Greta Gerwig movie. Yeah, oh, of course. And every time I have a movie that is this rooted in IP, and I mean, I will say this. I think this is, of her three directorial movies, the worst of the three. That is not saying much because I think Little Women and Lady Bird are masterpieces, but it's clear that this movie is not, she didn't have complete control over it. That's what happens with blockbusters. So be it. I think it is clear that this is a movie made by somebody who loves movies, which I also really loved. The opening it with the 2001: A Space Odyssey thing got me really excited.
I think I mentioned to Che the Monty Python really quick bit was very funny to me.
There's a lot of stuff. There's the fucking Clueless reference with the dance scene. Everything in this movie it's a very meta film. Obviously, a lot of Barbie references that I didn't get as somebody who doesn't know anything about Barbie, but I caught most of the movie references, I think, and I really appreciated that. I think
it's a sign of a good film where we're able to enjoy it, where the movie is definitely not catered to us whatsoever.
Yeah,
but I walked out of the movie smiling ear to ear, and I genuinely loved it. And the Matchbox 20 push sequence of "Let me play my guitar at you," and the slow reveal that they're at a campfire. Everybody has a campfire on a beach. Yeah. Just well done comedy. Right, I
do think maybe I'm being naive, but is that's a joke that was being made in Animal House. Like the guy in Animal House is playing the guitar and then he gets his guitar broken because everyone hates that guy who plays the guitar at people.
Oh yeah, no.
Are there dudes really still running that move? If you're a dude, listen to this podcast, or a lady, if you're anybody, if you're a dude, a lady, or anything in between, and you're playing your guitar at people at parties, seek God.
Che, look at me.
Don't do this.
Che, look at me. Why are you even asking?
I know. As soon as I said it, and I was like, "Fuck, they exist."
They are still doing it. And can I play my guitar at you? Because I've never seen a woman in a party, unless a guy is stupid hot, to be like, "I'm enjoying this thing that's happening at me right now."
Yeah, I don't think it matters how hot you are, but maybe it does. I wouldn't know.
Also, that song is super problematic, and I never really realized it.
I also just checked. It was Amy Schumer that you were thinking of.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
I'm happy
it's
the
a different movie. It's a different movie.
Different movie entirely, and I'm happy this is the movie that we got out of this.
Yeah, I don't hate Amy Schumer the way that the rest of the internet seems to hate her, but I do think that obviously a big part of this movie, and the movie even makes a joke about it in the scene where they're being like, Margot Robbie's not hot anymore. It's like Margot Robbie looks like Barbie, like in real life looks like Barbie.
I thought that was so fucking good because I was like, this is not the right message in the producers.
I think it's so.
I was
funny.
like, oh.
All I was thinking literally before the voiceover comes in by obviously the GOAT Helen Mirren, but before the voiceover comes in, I'm like, they couldn't have fucked her makeup up a little bit, like
a little bit.
You just zoom in close on Margot Robbie, maybe the most beautiful face on earth.
She was like, I'm ugly. I'm like, oh, I guess she's not wearing makeup now. And like, I'm like, it took me like a second to be like, oh, I guess she's not wearing makeup. Like that took me a little bit.
I don't know what it looks like when a woman doesn't or doesn't have makeup on unless their eyes are like different colors. So she could or couldn't have makeup on. I have no idea. Anything else to say about the definitely soon to be number 2 movie of the year? Maybe we'll pass Super Mario Brothers.
As someone I've still loved Across the Spider-Verse. I really hope in some world this can beat out Mario Brothers.
I despise the Mario Brothers movie. This movie was obviously much better. I'm tempering my celebration of the success of this movie because I would love for them to learn that we should make more movies for women and young girls and give opportunities to female directors and female writers and female filmmakers who don't get a chance to make these movies. I would love for them to learn that lesson because I think that is why this movie has been a success, because it's a good movie made by women for women. What I think is going to happen is 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about Hot Wheels 3, and I'm going to be here being like, is this the end of cinema? Mattel has taken over the world, and I need to kill myself.
Is as good as Speed Racer, I will be a happy man. But I know no way in the hell is it gonna happen because you cannot top a masterpiece. And before we go to break, Che, I want you to know you're enough. We'll be right back.
You can't shoot me. You're a cop.
Not anymore.
And we're back.
All
right. Now it is time for the second half of the Barbenheimer triumvirate. And before we jump into our full discussion on this movie, I'm just going to ask you up front, Corey. Is this top 3 Nolan?
Thanks.
Yes.
Convening at short notice. I can't believe it. Well, here we are.
This is atomic test.
The Russians have a bomb. We're supposed to be years ahead of them, but what were you guys doing in Los Alamos? And how many people were in these open discussions?
Too many. Compartmentalization was supposed to be the protocol.
We were in a race against the Nazis.
So now the race is against the Soviets.
Not unless we started.
Robert, they just fired the starting gun. What's the nature of the device they detonated?
Data indicates it may have been a plutonium implosion device.
Like the one you built at Los Alamos.
Where do you have it? I'll tell you where I have it. And that is currently, only having watched it once, will need to watch it again, have an IMAX ticket for Thursday because it was literally the first IMAX show that wasn't all the way sold out in my city. Because there's only one IMAX theater and they only have 2 shows a day, 5 days a week, which is psychotic. But either way.
Wait, what?
Don't worry.
Okay, that's insane. Okay, I'm sorry.
But I don't know if I need to go see it in IMAX again because after seeing the movie, I don't think this is like a visual masterpiece the same way that my number 1 film is. But I do want to watch it again because it is a very dense film. And I think this is currently number 2 for me behind Dunkirk. And where do you have it?
I liked it better than Dunkirk.
I'm again, like I said, for me it's pretty close. And
So-
if I could be reporting back in a month being like, I watched it again and I have Oppenheimer number 1. And I think the sad thing is, as somebody who does not count themselves as a Nolan fan, I think sad's not the right word. But as somebody who doesn't count themselves as a Nolan fan, I think the reason I like this movie so much, it is really not a Nolan movie.
I definitely felt like I saw his fingerprints all the way through it.
Visually, for sure.
Visually. And
But I
think
kept expecting
he definitely-
time travel to start happening.
But see, that's my thing. I fucking like time travel. That's my thing.
That's kind of my favorite part of Dunkirk, because I think it's the only time since Memento where his weird time thing worked, because the disorientation in that movie of like when you are in the timeline, because he has overlapping storylines and you figure out Cillian Murphy's in the past and the future and you're like, oh, this really works. And then there's Tenet, which I really like. But then if you think about it for even 2 seconds, you're like, this movie makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, no, I watched Tenet again. It's funny. I watched Tenet like the week before I saw Oppenheimer. They had it again in theaters, and I walked out of it. I'm like, listen, I knew what was happening, and I knew how the movie was going to end. That movie makes no fucking sense at all.
I still kind of liked about it. I think I'm a Tenet fan, but it is very much a flawed movie. I think this movie is near perfect.
Perfect. Agreed. I think... And I will say this about the IMAX. I saw it in IMAX. And my reasoning for when I saw it, I thought like this is worth it in IMAX, was the explosion scene.
Yeah.
Because when that happened, because I think it was such a very well done scene, because in the film itself, it is treated so much like a race of, I thought this was a great job of writing and filmmaking to treat it like it's this whole, like, we're like, it's a sports movie. It's like a competition thing. Like, we're all racing to do this really good thing. Like, it's like we're all working towards this thing. Like, I'm trying to think of another movie, but like basically a sports movie, like Hidden Figures in a sense.
Well,
but like,
you know what it reminded me of? And they're not really close, but I think it's the same sort of ideas where like, I walking out, I was like, as somebody who saw it not in IMAX, but in a pretty big screen, I was like, clearly the visual crux of this movie is that first test scene. And I think it's such a great decision that we never see the real bombs, that we don't have to watch people get fucking nuked in
I appreciated
Nagasaki.
that. Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciated that.
And I think it's really smart, because it's not really what this movie is about. It's not a war movie. It's about the internal conflict of these people, that a lot of normal people got together to do the worst thing that we've ever done to humanity. But the thing that it reminded me of visually is First Man. Because the moments in First Man that I always think about, and the reason I think that a lot of people fell flat on that movie because they didn't see it in IMAX or in a big enough screen, is because there is a moment when you fucking land on the moon where the entire movie changes.
Yes.
And I was blown out of my socks when that happened. And I think it might be the same thing for Oppenheimer. And when I say not worth it, it's because this theater is a 3-hour round trip away from me. And I just don't know if I need to drive 3 hours.
And the reason, and I think with the explosion thing though, I think because it kept on happening. And I think that's what it was to me, where like, this whole build up, I'm like, oh yes, it actually worked. I mean, of course I knew it worked, but I'm like, oh my god, they actually made it work. And then as it kept going on, and the explosion, and just this wall of fire that just didn't stop, and it was just like my heart kind of stopped. In a sense, I'm like, oh my god, what the fuck have we done? Kind of mentality towards the whole thing, and like, and then later on, I went to go watch the reel, and I think Nolan actually pretty much recreated one for one. It was actually it's super impressive. He was able to do that with his fake bomb, but like, watching that ever-encompassing flame just not stop, the amount of dread that I felt, where like the IMAX screen just stretches on for so far that you can't look away. It's just that, and it's like this. It feels like as big as it. I'm assuming it's smaller than what it felt like, but I felt just so much dread from that. I don't know. I just haven't felt like fear like that from watching something. I like horror films, but I have not felt a sense of dread and fear that kept me up my entire night like that film did.
Yeah, and I think the movie does contend really well with the fact that this is a movie about something really, truly horrible. And like you said, it tries its best to really effectively translate that terror onto screen, and that the awesomeness of that thing on the screen. I really, when it happened, and I think we're at like hour and 45-minute mark of the movie
Yeah,
when
I
the,
think
when
we're
the
like...
test happens. And I was like, how is there an hour and 15 minutes more of this movie? Is this Nolan once again like getting away from himself? I feel like he has a problem with pacing in his films, and they're often too long. And then you need that third act. You need it so badly, where you see Oppenheimer, one, having to contend with what he's done and trying his hardest to not never be able to reverse it, but trying to make up for it. And then, of course, the U.S. government standing in his way at every bend, being like, we're not gonna stop. We're gonna make the super bomb. We're gonna make the hydrogen bomb, and we're going to continue this nuclear race with the Soviets. And I think the line that really is the crux of this movie and the narrative that Nolan was trying to contend with is that when we first see Kenneth Branagh come to Los Alamos, and he says to Oppenheimer, is this bomb big enough to end all wars? And I think that is really like, you see that these guys are like, that's their hope in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, like that's
whether or not they're telling themselves that so they can sleep at night, or if that's what they really believe, is they think that they can create something that's so evil that no one will ever want to use it. And then of course we used it twice, and then had an entire Cold War with their threat of this happening again. Because of
and I think also it's just like so much of like, I think in their minds, or like, I mean, obviously we don't know, but like from this dramatization that we've taken about these people's lives and what we were given in this information, it's very much given to us like the fact it's like they are like this. They did believe this is like the weapon that was like, we're done after this. We're like creating this thing in order to establish world peace. We're creating this thing to destroy the ultimate evil that was the Nazis. And then after that, when the Nazis are over and Hitler's dead, they still want to use it in order to like, they still want to use it. And they ask him like, where should we do this to make more sense? And they're like, and then that horrible scene of being like, we don't do it in Kyoto because my wife and I honeymooned there. And it was just,
that boardroom scene made me want to crawl out of my skin. It was so evil.
It's just like, it's so fucked up, but it's just, and like, I think that was a moment. And as you see the bombs just get shipped away, and the fact they don't get a phone call about when they dropped it, they don't have any idea.
They hear it on the radio when the rest of the world does.
They hear it like the rest of the world does.
And I love that scene because we get
and I think that's
Ben
the
Safdie's
scene.
character.
Oh, never mind. Not that scene. I was going to say the continue what you're saying, because I'm continuing what you're saying about Ben Safdie.
Well, I think the when we see Ben Safdie's character who's playing Edward Teller, and the first thing that happens after they all hear on the radio about the bomb of Kyoto, and you see the soldiers celebrating through the town, which again made me physically ill, and the first conversation that Teller has with Oppenheimer is like, will you tell them to greenlight my H-bomb? He's like, we just bombed the Japanese with this horrible thing we made. Will you tell them to help me make a bigger, more destructive weapon? And it's obviously telling for the future of the country and this program to come forward. I was blown away by this movie, and just the performances. We haven't really said Cillian Murphy's name yet, who I think is
gonna win. Yes,
I don't think he'll win Best Actor, but
I mean, well, I guess we don't know how this year's gonna end out, but like
I want to call it now because I just want it on the record. But I think Leo gets his second. So Killers of the Flower Moon.
Have you seen it?
No, of course not. I don't get any fucking. Listen, any executives.
I didn't know I didn't know if it came out or not.
No. It was. I think it was at Sundance, but your boy does not have Sundance money or Sundance time in his PTO schedule. But yeah. I have a feeling, as somebody who's obviously Martin Scorsese obsessed, and Leonardo DiCaprio obsessed, I think that movie is going to fucking bang. But
how about this? So far, though, I think Cillian Murphy has one of the better performances that I've seen in a long time, and at least so far this year. I forgot that it was him. I learned that my dad watches Peaky Blinders. I had no idea about that fact. That was a weird thing to learn.
Peaky Blinders fucks, and it is one of those things that's really good and has been co-opted by the worst parts of the internet. So I can't talk to anybody about it because it's like it's been taken by dude bros who like post motivational quotes on Instagram, and I don't want to be associated with them. But Peaky Blinders is a good show.
Like my dad was like that. My guy Cillian Murphy. I'm like, oh, you've seen it? So she's like, yeah, but I like him in Peaky Blinders. And I'm like, damn, my dad's seen Peaky Blinders and I haven't.
I will say he is really good at Peaky Blinders. And Peaky Blinders is another show that, a lot like Oppenheimer, is about somebody contending with the horrible things they've done. The entirety of Peaky Blinders is about men coming back from World War I and suffering from PTSD and transferring that PTSD into obviously like horribly violent crimes. Oppenheimer is, of course, the opposite, where he's done this horrible thing and he spends his entire life trying to negate it, up to and including the fact that he feels like, and that's why I think that scene with him and Emily Blunt at the end of the movie is so beautiful, feeling like he has to be punished because of what he's done, and he will take any punishment that he can get, even though, as she points out, like, this is not going to make people forgive you.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, I was seeing at the end of the film though. It's like, I think that's like right after. It's like kind of in the middle before the bomb actually explodes. You think about the scene where Florence Pugh's character dies, right? Where like she finds him.
Confused. I thought it was after we the whole trial thing is over. I thought it was
no.
But...
Well, like at least to me, I'm thinking of the scene I'm remembering though is like after Florence Pugh's character dies, when he's still building the bomb in Los Alamos. I think she's like, you can't have like these, like I'm paraphrasing obviously, but like you can't do all of these things and expect the world to forgive you just because you feel sorry for yourself.
Oh, no, yeah, no, sorry. We're not, I remember what you're talking about in the woods where she finds him. Yeah. That's not the scene I'm talking about. The scene I'm talking about is at the end where, because she the whole time she's telling him and his lawyers that like this is like a kangaroo court and he shouldn't be subjecting himself to it. And then this is at the end, this is after her testimony. I'm pretty sure it's the scene right after her testimony.
No, you're right.
Which is, again, I think fire scene.
But I think like that's, at least to me, like that's very late in the film. But I think that is like the theme being stated, at least for his character.
Yeah.
Is this guy who's just like, oh, I did this thing, feel bad for me in a way. Or like, this is how I'm punishing myself, basically. But everyone's like, well, you know, like you can punish yourself, but that's not necessarily going to make everybody forgive you in a sense. Like, and I think, I mean, like, even like the whole, like in the last scene when they kind of do that quick flash forward where we see like him in his older state, kind of when he gets that the scientific award, and I mean obviously the posthumous thing that he got in 2020, I want to say 2021, where they like reinstated his security clearance. And just for records, a lot of people were like kind of like, I was talking to my friends afterwards where like it wasn't like, they were like, I wonder, it wasn't that big of a deal that he like lost his clearance, but honestly what it really did was just kind of cut him off from so many resources and basically blacklisted him as a professor and a teacher and a lecturer. So it really did kind of destroy his life when they went through with this. And I mean, like, you know, I think people have a very strung up thing about, like, me personally, I don't really think like history will remember you like as this thing or whatever. Like, I think it's very important to fight with what you can fight with in the moment. I don't know. It's like, listen, there's much smarter people than I am who can discuss the morality surrounding what happened in World War II, but
well, I think the movie contends with that, though. I think the scenes of him talking with, I can't remember who Jack Quaid's character is playing. Apologies.
Oh, I can't remember I can't remember the guy's name. Shit.
But then Leslie Grove, who's being played by Matt Damon, and they have multiple conversations about how like, and the truth is that this was a race against the Nazis, and and as he says to, I think it's Jack Quaid's character. I can't remember exactly who he was in the conversation with, but he was like, I might not, something to the effect of like, I don't know if we, being America, will use this correctly, or should use this, or should even have this weapon. But I know the Nazis should use it for terrible things. And it's just like, that is the whole thing. It's like and I think that's what the whole point of the movie is like, these people did a thing that they thought was good, and that probably they had to do up to a point. Yes. Obviously.
And it's just kind of like, and like pretty much like when they kind of got to the point, I'm glad the movie pointed it out. Was basically like, we basically were just like had Japan on the ropes, and it's like, okay,
the line we dropped it on a like a lost army or something, people who had already given up, right? You know,
pretty much, yeah. Like, I mean, most of the country had already given up. I mean, most of the country was against their government at the time. They were hoping to overthrow the fascism that's going on in their country, right. And we nuked them twice.
That's why I think for a number of things in this movie that really contend, you spoke of the horror of the atomic bomb that gets transferred on a screen, and the like really watching Oppenheimer struggle with this emotional roller coaster of what he's done afterward. I think the scene that really made me feel the most unease is that scene where they're deciding where to bomb in Japan. I think you just had this room full of white men being like, how many millions of innocent people are we going to kill today?
Basic.
and so
Yes.
matter-of-factly. And I'm sure that's how it happened. That's why it's so sickening. It's like, it's probably true to life, is that these people have to come into a room, or these people did come into a room and make the decisions about children across the globe. And I think this movie is, I honestly didn't really think Christopher Nolan was capable of contending with huge ideas like this, because even in Dunkirk, the beauty of Dunkirk is it is this World War II movie, but what he does is he shrinks it all the way down. It's really about a beach and these a couple thousand guys who want to get across the strait back home to England. And that's what I think really works about it. And I do think at times when Nolan gets too big of an idea, it really is when he falls most flat on his face as far as like screenplay writing wise. I love visually everything that he's doing. And what my least favorite movie of his is Interstellar, which is this movie that is just all big ideas and no payoff.
All big ideas, but it looks cool as shit though. But like, I think as we were like, I mean, I was actually going to bring up Interstellar because I know a lot of people about this. My former roommate's also very anti this, but I like time travel as a concept in stories. And
I think it's so difficult to do well, but when it is done well, it's great.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing. And I think Nolan has taken a swing at that concept twice. And unfortunately, I think it's just too big of a thing to grasp.
Yeah.
But for like Dunkirk and Oppenheimer.
Wait, so when you say twice, what do you mean? Because I find that Nolan's movies are all about time, really.
Tenet
and
Interstellar.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think there's elements of time, and obviously in Dunkirk.
Oh yeah, no. There's elements
Inception
of time.
And
yeah, absolutely. The time, yes, time is very important. But what I guess I mean by it is like Tenet and Interstellar with these insanely big,
they're literally about
sci-fi story, and like this kind of like there's such a wide concept, which Dunkirk, Oppenheimer, Dark Knight, and even Inception to an extent had these ideas that are contained within themselves. Like Dunkirk, the beach story, you know how like this is how it ends, this is how it begins, this is what it's centralized around. Dark Knight, blah blah blah, same thing. But like especially Oppenheimer, like we know the bookends of this story. And the way that he was able to envelop those bookends and layer them on top of each other, shooting back and forth and like kind of in that way. And it's interesting to me that I had a coworker today tell me that they found themselves confused at the timelines. Because in my mind, this was the first time I watched a Nolan film where I felt like I knew exactly what was happening at all times.
I also think the visual indicator of the black and white was a really smart move, because I think you can. If your indication in the movie is just like actors look somewhat older or somewhat younger, you can get a little lost. I really liked that he made the decision to make the present-ish, like the most recent timeline, the black and white timeline, when we're seeing Lewis Strauss reflect back on the rest of this movie that is sort of cycling forward. I didn't really think the timeline was that confusing.
I mean, honestly, yeah. You know, truth be told, Chad, another thing, not because I'm like just really smart, because I am, but like also. I didn't actually pay attention. I didn't even notice the black and white thing being like an indicator. I'm like, yeah, no, because he's talking about like, he was like, when I first met him this way, I'm like, oh yeah, because this makes sense in the timeline because the bomb already dropped, so he's a professor at this point. Yeah. I just wasn't confused whatsoever with like the whole like juggling timelines. It all seemed pretty straightforward to me.
I also think a lot of the back and forth of especially looping over Oppenheimer's life, I think a lot of it is not super consequential what comes before what, as long as you realize like these relationship with these characters, like as long as you can like pinpoint what in his life is like when he first meets Kitty, when their relationship it becomes rocky, and then they have the trial. I think there's really key markers in this film for like where you can anchor where you are in the timeline. So I'm not sure. I'm surprised that I wonder if there's more people who were confused at the timeline of this movie, because I think
that's fair. No,
for the first time in a while, Nolan did a good job of really navigating that.
And I do love this whole much of like the last reveal. Like even though it was very obvious that Strauss was very much the person who fucked up Oppenheimer's life pretty early on, I thought that like the very end reveal thing and kind of like showing Oppenheimer really not considering being a threat. Even the point is like, of course Strauss wouldn't do that. Why would he do that? Kind of like him just not necessarily thinking of him as a threat. And Strauss just kind of enveloped, like his entire world was basically taking down this one guy.
Right.
It's just such like an interesting like, and it makes so much sense because like Oppenheimer was so much more focused on like, his brain clearly was past everything because by this point he had helped create the worst weapon to exist.
And I think the movie does also realize that Oppenheimer's probably, as many brilliant men and women have been in history is probably really arrogant and doesn't think of somebody like Strauss as a threat to his existence. And that is part of why Strauss became a threat to his existence, because he finds, I mean, the first thing we hear him say to Strauss is like, oh, you were just a lowly shoe salesman. Strauss's response is, no, a shoe salesman. So I do think there is like this idea that, and I don't know if this is true. I'm not an Oppenheimer historian. I also don't really give a shit if this movie is like accurate, but the fact that it was like Strauss's rage and his vendetta is predicated on the pettiest of slights, where like Einstein didn't want to talk to him and he thought that he turned Einstein against him, I think is really apt, is like a really apt way. It's true to humanity. There are people who hold these tiny grudges. You meet somebody and you like shake their hand wrong, or you don't look at them in the eye when you talk to them, and that's it forever. I think Robert Downey Jr. is so excellent in this movie.
It was nice to see. I like seeing him as the bad guy. I've just been so used to seeing him as this really good guy. It was kind of nice to see him like this like his arrogance that he's able to portray himself with is so well done.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, it's like also very funny to like kind of see him be the opposite end of the thing, where he's no longer a former weapons like engineer, and now he's the guy. I was also thinking to myself about it.
I've been pretty worried about his post Marvel career. We've only got the one movie, obviously, but it feels weird that we've only got one movie, and that movie was Doolittle. And I think about,
we don't talk about Doolittle.
Oh no, yeah, we won't.
What movie?
But I think a lot about pre MCU Robert Downey Jr. One of my favorite. I mean, I will to this day, I think Zodiac is his performance in Zodiac is one of the greatest performances I've ever seen. And
I'm just saying, I understand why he lost, but his performance in Tropic Thunder is so really fucking good.
I find it so weird that there's been this sort of like re-examining of Tropic Thunder and people being like, well, that's problematic. I thought we all decided at the time. I think it's just white people. I think it's white people.
Hold on.
Listen, white people.
It was
we're not upset.
No, I think it's fucking hilarious. Like
it's genius.
It had issues coming out with it. I think when before the movie came out, they had special showings for people to be like, listen, there's context to it, and he's an asshole in the film.
I think it's
he did the commentary in character.
I know, it's great. It's great.
If you guys could find that commentary somewhere, I recommend it, watching Tropic Thunder with that commentary.
This obviously isn't really like the same thing, because Tropic Thunder is a comedy, and everything he's doing with that character is like really over the top and ridiculous. But I find, and this is not really related to Oppenheimer, or at least I haven't seen discourse about this at all, but I find people's inability to contend with the fact that like you can tell stories about awful people so weird to me. It's like, you fucking people haven't seen The Godfather. Everyone in The Godfather is a fucking murderer, and we don't seem to care. But the second that there's a story about a racist person or like a sexist, then everyone's like, well, should we do that? There are racist, sexist people, and if you tell stories about them where they're the hero, that's a different thing. But I think that you can have art about awful people and then contend with that fact. That's why I think Oppenheimer's interesting, because we're contending with this thing.
Yeah,
people who aren't perfect, who did a terrible thing, and the movie is a lot about like, are these people good, evil? And I think the conclusion is no. These people are people, except for Casey Affleck. And Casey Affleck in this movie is true evil, and it's hilarious.
Casey Affleck,
I don't know what that guy's doing, but it's great.
Think I heard it in general like sound as soon as they showed his face, and I'm like, myself
the
included.
Slow reveal is so funny because Nolan obviously knows that we've all been like, oh shit, Casey Affleck exists again, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, he's a bad dude, I guess. And
most distracting cameo. I'll give you the contenders. Obviously, we've got Casey Affleck.
Yes.
We've got Rami Malek with one scene for some reason. We've got our boy Josh Peck, who's had a very interesting resurgence of his career. I have no problem with Josh Peck. I hope his career goes well.
I mean, I would take the same weird role to be like, I would be the button guy in a Christopher Nolan film. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
We've got Josh Hartnett, Ben Safdie, or Han Solo himself, Aldous Ehrenreich. Who do you think is the most distracting cameo in Oppenheimer?
I will say, I think Hartnett and Safdie, they were actually characters. I wouldn't even say cameos. They actually were.
Sure, yeah. And I guess not cameos, like stunt casting. As somebody who is not a Safdie believer,
I have not seen Harlin in a long time, and my first thought is, why is that scientist so hot? It made no sense. I was like, this scientist is kind of hot. Why? Is
that's
he in this
right.
film?
You didn't see Operation Future. What was it? Operation Future Rooster. I watched that movie in theaters.
What the fuck did you just say to me?
I love Aubrey Plaza
so
and Jason Statham, so I was obviously gonna go see that movie.
I didn't see that, so I was like, who the fuck is this hot scientist? Like, this is weird and distracting, but it didn't bother me that much. Yeah. I didn't know who Safdie was. I know he was in the film. And somebody was showing like, oh, that's the director. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And it didn't bother me.
Director and also weird star of Licorice Pizza. But yeah, continue.
Josh Peck was more like, oh, look, there's Josh Peck. And it kind of was like a quick thing. I did see Rami Malek several times, like in his other scenes. And I'm like, why is Rami Malek here?
Didn't speak until he has what is... And I will say my one complaint about not my one complaint, but one of the complaints I have about the movie is that Rami Malek's scene, I think, doesn't hit the way that I think the movie is clearly thinks it's going to hit, because they cast Oscar winner Rami Malek to do that scene, and that speech just not. I don't think that speech is that great. And that moment, while it's cool to be like, oh, here's this reveal that actually it's been Robert Downey Jr. the whole time, is not. We just watched this man invent the nuclear bomb. I don't know if like. This moment is the big reveal that you think it is.
I do wonder how much they took that speech 1-to-1. Like, I wonder if that's like a very similar, like if they like, and I think they probably should, since it's a movie, they probably should have like stood up a bit more, honestly. But I really do. I think
it should have just like punched up writing wise. I don't think that. I think acting is really good, but I just don't think
I think the speech needed to be pumped up writing wise. I mean, like I do like that they pretty much kept word for word. The president's like would like get that son of a bitch out of here. Basically, they kind of kept that pretty much the same. But I think it's Affleck's, because I think when I saw him on screen, I was like, one, who let him back on his set? That guy's a predator. And two, this makes sense because I feel disgusted every time he's on screen, and I really would like him to go away.
I wonder if the movie knows that though. I wonder if the movie knows that we are, because he is one of the only people that's like truly evil in the movie.
Yeah.
I wonder if the movie knows that we have this relationship with Casey Affleck, or if it just thinks that he's a good actor. Because the truth is, all terrible things that he's done aside, he is an incredible actor. Like Manchester by the Sea, still one of the greatest performances I've seen in my life.
I know I had the conversation about Manchester by the Sea afterwards, but still really bad guy. Should not be allowed around film sets. Bad dude. We should not give people a second chance. He's a bad rich dude. He doesn't need to work anymore. Go away. Like, go fuck away.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Fuck off. His brother's fucking Ben Affleck. He can fuck off. It doesn't fucking matter.
I do think the amount of people that Nolan gets to be in his movies is so fascinating to me. And Matt Damon just seems to want to be like B and C players in all these movies, and I respect that. I mean,
like, listen, if you get like, I feel like people write these scenes like you need a care. Like, I feel like they'll write scenes be like, I need a Matt Damon type to write this, to speak this whole like motivational, like he could just tell me to like go buy some groceries and I'd fucking do it. He just does that like whole like, I mean, he even did fucking the same thing in Air. We talk about fucking sneakers and basketball, and I felt fucking motivated to go buy a pair of Jordans.
I honestly still haven't seen Air. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
They evoke the spirit of Martin Luther King to convince.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
That scene by itself, Che, I turned it off. There's this.
I don't like Ben Affleck enough to sit through a fucking movie about him making Jordans. I just don't. I'm sorry.
Well, Ben Affleck's not really in it.
What do you mean Ben Affleck's not really in it? I thought it was a Ben Affleck movie.
He's not a character really. I think I like him as a director. But no, there's this scene with Marlon Wayans where like he's like, I have this speech from Martin Luther King, so you should go talk to Michael Jordan's parents to get him to sign with Nike. And it is not. I promise you that I'm not paraphrasing, to the point that I said, oh my God, and woke up two of the people in the house saying it so loudly and being like, what's wrong? I'm like, I'm going to bed. I cannot finish this movie at 12 o'clock at night because they evoked the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr.
White dudes loved Air, though. I will say that. White dudes thought that movie
no shit. All right. But yeah, no shit. It's, but I think now that we're talking about Air, Che, I think it's time to wrap up the episode.
Okay. Nothing else you want to say about Oppenheimer?
I thought it was amazing.
We didn't say Florence Pugh's name. Should we say Florence Pugh's name? Should we talk about the fact that it's become abundantly clear Christopher Nolan hasn't fucked anyone in his life.
He's not very good at writing women.
Not only is he not going to write women, he doesn't know how sex works. Imagine, Corey. Let me just paint the picture for you.
Okay.
You're in the middle of sex.
Yes.
Literally in the middle of it.
Okay, I'm in the middle of it. Got it.
And then she gets up.
Uh-huh.
She walks over to your bookshelf.
Okay.
She grabs, let's just say she grabs Watchmen.
Okay.
She opens Watchmen to a random page in Watchmen.
Yeah.
And she points the book at you and she goes, here, read this. And then while you're reading, there, happy Halloween, kids. You old son of a bitch, the sex starts again.
See, okay. I didn't want. Okay, fine. We're talking about my big. Okay, there's two big things in this movie that I hate.
Why does the sex start again?
And okay, I want to say this movie is near perfect. Besides these two scenes in my brain.
Yeah, go.
The first
go
scene is that sex scene because
weirdest sex scene of all time.
As one of the most attributed lines to Oppenheimer is, "I become death, destroyer of worlds." A line that he says later on in the film, but also very much
after he's created the atomic bomb, not while he's.
And that is
inside this college student.
Well, it's like the most insane thing about it. Like, she's on top of me. She picks up a random page and shows it to him. Because here's the more insane thing about the scene, though. Before we get into it, he named this bomb Trinity. Mm-hmm. Allegedly, Florence Pugh's character in real life, one of her favorite poems was named Trinity. So wouldn't it have made more sense earlier in the film to have her read that poem around that time?
No,
or
but
at
then,
least,
Corey, how do we get this scene?
We don't need any explanation for how he knows. He's an educated man. He could just fucking know that line. And
I will say this.
And someone be like, where'd you get that? Like, what are you saying right now? Where's this from? Like, oh, it's Sanskrit from such and such. He could just say that because he's a fucking well-read scientist. My second scene. My second fucking scene.
Honestly, you said this before. I don't remember the scene at all, and the fact that it's stuck in your mind so much to me is so funny because I don't remember.
So
I have no idea what you're even talking about.
So
Go for it.
Okay, when you see it again, you're gonna play like that was weird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So like, there's this scene where like they're very much like you got to show them who you are when he's at Los Alamos, and it's like this weird like over talking like suit up scene where they have his hat and pipe on a counter, and he picks it up like he's fucking Batman, and then they do this fucking like up reveal of him smoking and walking through like, oh yeah, I'm walking through town now, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? What it's like this is he's acquired his uniform now. Now he's officially Oppenheimer. What the fuck is this?
Oh wait, hold on. I it's the scene where what's his name from Numbers, which is a reference that nobody will get. David Krumholtz playing Isaac Rabbi, or maybe it's Rabbi.
It's Rabbi.
He's wearing a military uniform.
Yes, he's wearing exactly.
Okay, I do remember that. It honestly didn't bother me as much as it bothered you.
But
I do think it was like a bit cheesy. Yeah.
I was like, no, but my thing was like, it was so cheesy because like they put on like his signature clothing, and I was like,
yeah.
I was like, this is stupid.
I get the idea of the scene where they're like, you're not a soldier, be a scientist. We need scientists, not soldiers. Yes, it was cheesy. I give that to you. I think putting it in the same breath as like top 5 weirdest sex scenes of all time, I think is maybe doing it a disservice.
I just said those are my two hates.
No, I got you. I do want to say though, before we get off this topic, before we stop talking about Oppenheimer, I don't want people to think that because Christopher Nolan can't write women, and I don't think has had sex before, as evidenced by that scene, that Florence Pugh isn't incredible in this movie. Because she's so good.
And so
it's crazy that she took this character that Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh. I think we've talked about Emily. I mean, her scene with her Emily Blunt scene with Jason Clarke is
also Jason Clarke so good at playing despicable asshole. He does such a good job of playing this despicable, horrible lawyer character. So fucking good.
Yeah. But Florence Pugh is incredible. I think she's so good. We've been singing her praises for years and years. I think she's one of the best living actors right now. And I'm just a real bum that she made that movie with her ex Zach Braff. And I'll say that.
I think like in a horror scene that I felt like I kept using horror with this film, but the courtroom scene where she's like on top of on top of Oppenheimer as she's staring Emily Blunt in the eye.
So made me so uncomfortable.
Exactly, but I think that's what it's supposed to make you feel.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
oh my
god, of course.
I felt like my skin was crawling.
And I think it's a really effective trick that puts you in that character's mind. Like we're basically experiencing what Emily Blunt is experiencing in that moment, where she's looking at her husband and all she's thinking about is this woman that he cheated on her with, and that maybe, and she's always will be afraid that he loved this woman first and more than her. And you have this like skin crawling moment where you're just watching them have sex with each other, and yeah, Florence Pugh staring into the camera made me want to crawl into a ball and die. She's great. She's so fucking good.
She's really good. No, I mean, if anything you said with this movie, the acting was across the board really, really well done.
So good. I think we will probably, if Cillian Murphy wins best actor, I hope it's deserved. I hope whatever.
Is
I love
Cillian or Killian? I keep saying Killian. I don't know.
I've always heard Cillian, but I could. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. You know that.
I think Killian's a cooler name. So if it is wrong, I don't care. I think Killian's change your name. Change your name to Killian.
I do think that the supporting cast is too deep, that they will probably spread out the votes in the nominations. I don't really know. Like, who would you even say is the standout supporting actor or actress in this movie?
It'd
be hard. Is he in enough scenes? Does he have
he's basically the third act.
Yeah. Does he have a big enough, like, does he have an Oscar reel moment? I love him in this movie, but does he have that, the moment of him really cracking in the room after he loses the nomination?
I think that's probably,
or whatever.
That's
probably
really
good.
The scene where he's kind of doing his supervillain speech. Yeah. I think that might be the whole, like, a pretty, like, even the reveal was kind of like weird. I thought his, like, when he finally, like, kind of been like, oh yeah, that's fucking me, and he just kind of is telling Han Solo, who I didn't actually he didn't distract me because I didn't recognize him. And then I saw his in afterwards, and I'm like, oh, that's the guy from Cocaine Bear. Kidding.
What a sad, he was in Hail Caesar, Corey, in Cocaine Bear.
He was in Cocaine Bear. He played Ray Liotta's son.
Okay.
In his last role.
I haven't watched Cocaine Bear, and I don't think I will.
It's fine. Yeah. It's not great.
I don't think I'll bother with that one.
It's okay.
Yeah, I think I would say that Emily Blunt has the best scene. That scene we've talked about with Jason Clarke. I think that's the best scene in the movie. But again, she's just not. I don't think she's in enough of it. Again, we're not at the end of the year. We still have all of Oscar season in front of us. We're pretty ahead of the pack. We might not even get a fucking Oscars. Who knows?
Not giving Emmys.
We'll give out the awards, but there's not going to be a ceremony.
Bastards.
Yeah. Anything else, Corey? You want to touch on anything else before we go?
Nah, man. I think I'm good. It's fun to do a regular episode again. I can't wait to talk about what's our movie again? Should I remind the audience?
We're doing Deep Blue Sea in the next couple of weeks, but I think you want to just call it now. You want to say next is Black Hole by Charles Soule. I'm excited. If you're reading along. Absolutely excellent book about basically the AIDS crisis. Not even basically. It's a pretty thinly veiled.
I'm gonna go. Probably gonna go read 8 billion by the same author. I'm about to go read 8 Billion Genies. So I
said Charles Soule. It's Charles Burns. Charles Soule is a different man.
Black
Hole by Charles Burns.
Charles Soule also wrote 8 Billion Genies. Yeah. I'm gonna go check that out after this podcast.
Different comic book author, also good, but did not write Black Hole.
Soule's good.
Yeah. All right. Don't forget. If you're watching the YouTube video, drop us a like and subscribe. Go check out the 300th episode and drop a like over there, because we got a fair number of downvotes because people didn't like our opinions, which makes me happy inside. I love that you guys.
Honestly, I don't think we said anything wrong in that, and I stand by everything I said in that.
100%. Don't. Actually, no. I did text Corey. I think this is a bit of a spoiler, but you should go check out the podcast, see if you agree with me. I think we put Good Burger too high and Hansel and Gretel too low, or the two things that I
and I disagree with Che, but you guys should go and post your comment on the YouTube channel.
Go check it out.
YouTube video, and tell us which one of us is right and which one of us is wrong.
It's me. I'm obviously right, but I'll take it.
No, you're not. Hansel and Gretel was so boring, but Good Burger had Kel in a ice cream machine doing blue, blue, blue. Okay, we should end the episode. We reference Good Burger in the same breath as Oppenheimer. We need to end this podcast right now.
I've been Che.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.